we return, as we return to integrity.
So we have to do something that will make our spirit feel like it's taken action, even though there are many things going on in the world that we don't have any direct leverage about. But we do have our intent, we have our love, we have our light, and we have the capacity to focus that and show that we can do something about things that affect us. So that's the primary two things. Do any of the partners have anything to add as we come on in to this work?
I think that I'm really looking forward to this gathering today. I think it's a unique message that you shared, Jean. And I'm just so grateful that those of you who have chosen to show up this morning are here to take in this great message that Jean has to share.
And by Jean, I hope you know that it's not me, it's what comes through me. So, and I will say right off the start that if there's any mistakes or any things that are done, that is the Jean part, and the part is what comes through it right off the bat. So thank you. So the first thing we'd like to do is to bless the blessers. That means you. So before we do our blessing, we should receive health and healing and blessing. And so I would ask you to join me by closing your eyes and putting your feet on the floor and connecting to the Mother Earth. And just allow all of the tensions and worries and day-to-day experiences to just drain through your body, through the soles of your feet or through your hands, then through your knees, into the earth planet. Everything that you've been carrying with you can be left and broken down into its elements by the Mother. There's a whole system for it. There's nothing that you can offer her or let go of for her that she cannot make use of and recycle for nourishment and love. So just allowing all of the commotion of the day or the night, if you're coming from across the world, which is so beautiful, just let that flow through your head. Thank it, wish it well, and just let it go into the earth. And then through your shoulders and arms, allow all of the activity, the doing that you've been doing. Also, just review it and let it go. There's no projects that you have that you won't be able to pick up afterwards if you so desire. But in the meantime, for this brief period, let's let that go. So that we come to a place of stillness. Thank you. And bringing your attention to your belly area, finish digesting what hasn't been digested, whether it's food, whether it's emotions, whether it's conversations, any kind of distress. Give permission for your body to complete the digestive process and return it to the Mother. You don't have to continue to stew over it. Just let it go and let it be broken back down. Let the weight of it come off of you so that we come to a place of peace. That's better. And bringing attention to your chest, which is where we sometimes store griefs and injustices. I'll ask you as you breathe to let go of any slights or griefs or grudges or that you experienced yourself or somebody directed at you today. So just bless them, kiss them, thank them, and just let it go through your body into the earth for the mother. To recycle. And this will further help you come to a place of peace, at least for now. Do this to the extent that you can and be thankful for what's been let go. Then bringing your attention to the throat, if you will. Just allow all the conversations, all the talking, whether it was sweet or angry or sharp or gossipy or whatever it was, just let all those words be released from your voice box and thyroid area and go into the earth. So we get to the beginning of quiet. And bringing your attention to your brain, your head area. Let go of all the thought forms, all the ideas, concepts, beliefs, philosophy, arguments that are bouncing around there. And just allow that to let go and release to the cosmos. We have all these acupuncture points and the meridians over the skull, so many of them, and they can open up and let these things out. If you're working on projects or creative things, you need not worry. They won't disappear. But you could say your hard drive will defragment itself a bit. You come to a place of silence, more silence at any rate. And then using your imagination, your ability to visualize or feel things in your mind, open up what are called associated points on either side of the spine that connect to the deep organs and tissues of your physical body. As you open them up, going down one by one, your spinal column, you can allow any turbulence or toxicity or disorder to exit your body from all the important organs, leaving just health, just health. mother will handle it and detoxify it and break it down to its component elements to be used by all the other beautiful living creatures here. And then gently, one by one, seal each associated point with a symbolic kiss, sealing in the health and giving it a bit of protection. Very good. Now, we'll do one other thing with your indulgence, which is, if you wouldn't mind, you can put your hands crisscrossed over your heart. If you don't prefer to do it, that's fine. And just allow the love inside of you and in the universe to come into your heart, to blossom in your heart, to bless your heart. I have seen that underneath all of our pretensions and personalities, there's a fundamental heart of love and joy. And that lives in that heart. And if given a chance, it will expand and grow. And as it expands and grows, it sends that love through all your cells, through the bloodstream, into all the cells of your body. So feel that, if you can, going through your arms, up the neck to the head and brain, filling your chest cavity. Going into your belly to your digestive organs, balancing them, nourishing them, aligning them. Then to your kidneys and adrenals, giving them a chance to restore resilience, peace, love, stamina, immunity. And into your belly, your pelvis, then your legs and feet. Just let that love and warmth and light and inner joy awaken and dance together in the sun of you. Let it run up and down your spine, your back, the back of your arms and legs. And then allow any discontent or dissatisfaction that you no longer feel you need to hold on to. Allow that to come back through the veins to the heart, to be breathed out. With each breath, just let all of that dissatisfaction, which may have come from you, or you may have absorbed it from the media, from friends, neighbors, patients, colleagues, whoever. Just let that drain out of you. You don't need it anymore. Amen. With that in mind, I'd like to ask life, or whatever name you have, for the light and the vastness of this universe and cosmos that's much bigger than us, or the nameless, if you don't even have a name. I want to ask it to back our work today, to support us and hold us in the heart of the cosmos, to keep our attention on the support, vitality, and life and love that is here in every molecule and in every part of our being, that is inside every human being, every creature, every rock, every stone on this planet, whether it's completely hidden or it's obvious, it's there. May we, number one, keep our attention there so that we stay heartened and optimistic and in love. And may we never forget to ask for help when we need it. And stay in silence to listen to the answer that will come our way. And may the universe open our ears and eyes and throat and every sense to hear the answer. And may it open our will to act accordingly. Thank you. So, two of our team independently had come up with a great prayer that they wanted to say. So first I'm going to turn my attention to Suzanne, and you'll tell me the name of the prayer and what it means to you. And if you wouldn't mind reading it now, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely meditation, Jean. So the prayer that I wanted to share with our group today is the prayer of Saint Francis. And the reason why that came to me to share in today's gathering is that I feel like for me, that peace begins right here. To cultivate peace in our hearts is the first step. And when we get to that place of peace within, then we can go out into the world, and people tend to respond to that. And I think others soften when they encounter someone that's in a place of peace. And from that place, more understanding, more appreciation, more honesty can occur. And so I just think it's a really important and basic thing to cultivate peace within our heart. And I think that the prayer of Saint Francis is a beautiful reminder of that. So I will read it right now. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying to self that we are born to an eternal life. So may we find that peace within, and then walk into our neighborhoods and our communities, and bless the nation and the world with this sense of peace, and then take action from that place if we're so called to.
Thank you, Suzanne. That was beautiful. And the other group that wanted to address this one was Jen and Florencia. Are you up for that?
Hi, friends. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. And Flory and I, as we were listening to Jean's meditation, there are just so many beautiful places that it took us. And one of our songs kind of resonated with things that he mentioned in his meditation. And it's always good to just receive songs and just to have a moment where you can actually just receive the lyrics and receive the notes and just let it wash over you. This song is called Made of Love. See. We're made of love and a beautiful soul. We shine a light that stretches far into the future that unfolds. We can reach out for a hand to hold, 'cause we've got strength within our numbers. We weren't put here all alone, 'cause we're all gonna heal this dream. Nothing's quite the way that it seems. Every heart here was born to be free, and we will be, 'cause we're made of love and a beautiful soul. Like a seed, our hearts are planted in this world to bloom and grow. And we will wake up in our own time. And we will heal and love and learn till we're ripe upon the vine. 'Cause we're all gonna heal this dream. Nothing's quite the way that it seems. Every heart here was born to be free, and we will be. That's it. 'Cause we're made of love.
Thank you. So the next stage of what I'd like to work on is to, let's see if I can do what I'm trying to do. Just, where are we? Yeah, we're here. Okay. The next stage of what I'd like to do is to call out what we're feeling in the world from being sensitive, aware individuals. So I know many of you, some of you I've not met before, but most of the people who are here feel deeply what's going on around them. And sometimes we have trouble making sense of our sensitivity. And Return to Integrity is all about helping us learn to make sense of our sensitivity so we can use it to heal, to be in the world in a sane way. So before I get specific into it, I'm going to ask if there's anybody here who has the names of somebody they would like us to work with to heal, particularly if you have permission from them to get healing. So if there are any who have names or people, we will incorporate that into our healing work at the end of the call. So we're going to get to do some specific healing. So if you wish to speak up or write down on chat, we can also work that way. So the title of this, can we make me the presenter somehow? I don't know. Just that's okay. So the title of this is War to Peace. So we've been through a great deal of turbulence in the last few decades that have accelerated and accelerated in the last 2 years. I think pretty much everybody on Earth has noticed something is happening. And the possibility and the challenge is that we, for the first time on the planet, pretty much everybody is in the same dream since the pandemic. Mostly people were kind of in their separate worlds dealing with separate things, and we all had a global challenge, a pandemic. That brought us together. And at the same time, that means we feel everything in a deeper way. So at the core, I'm going to give you a postulate, which is that at the core, war is the result of a broken or hurt heart. So there's wounds, there's breaks, there's broken hearts behind it. And that means that there are other emotions and energies that come out of it. War is the potentially cleansing fire of an imbalanced system. I say potentially because war also creates a great deal of harm the way it's carried out. So one of the hardest things is when blood is spilled on the planet, it creates an attraction to pain and woundedness. And then fire comes to cleanse it, but fire comes as anger, it comes as hurt, it comes as hatred, it comes as this, et cetera, et cetera. I don't really want to spend a huge amount of time on all the variations that I'm sure you can feel. If that fire is directed and the energy can go out, it can be cleansing. Not that I like it, but if there's no channel, there's no way to deal with the underlying fuel for the fire or the expression of the fire, then every act of pain and bloodshed that's caused creates its own trouble down the road. So originally we were going to have this gathering maybe in another week on Sunday, but that was before events took their toll. So even though some people couldn't make it, we felt like we had to get this started as quick as possible, given the scenario we're facing. So I want you to take a moment inside of yourself to think about what kinds of emotional reactions and mental states have come up inside of you. Which of the things that are floating around the dream of the humans have resonated with you or caught you or caused you to create reaction? So, you know, I should have said it'd be nice to have a little pen and paper by, that would be good. And at a break, I'll ask you to get a glass of salt water for ceremony later on. But for the moment, what I want you to do is simply to think about what are the reactions to you? How do you feel about people's anger? How do you feel about their partisanship? How do you feel about the hurt and the things you see or hear about or feel about in the world. And which of the ones are the most difficult for you to process or come to grips with? So take a moment for that, if you will, and then we'll come back. We're coming to a place. So what I think I'd like you to do is, if my co-hosts can help, I don't know if how many of you are familiar with Zoom in general? You've done a fair amount of work with it. So, we can put you in what they call meeting rooms with small number of people to discuss things. So you'll get an invitation, which you click on, and then at the end of that session, you will be asked to come back because there's so many of you. And I should let you know, we don't record any of the personal conversations unless you want. So just the general thing is being recorded for others. I'd like to see if we can we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 18. Maybe if we can somehow give like 4 rooms. And if you wouldn't mind just hearing, you don't have to speak, but if you can witness what other people are sharing, that would be very nice.
Yeah, I think maybe, I'm not sure if the hosts and co-hosts are going into breakout rooms, so that would be about 15. So what if we do 5 groups of 3?
Okay.
All right.
So say hi to them. We'll go for about 5 or 6 minutes, not too long, and then call you back so you can share a little bit about what you discovered. Yes. So Suzanne, do you want to, because I think the question you bring is one of the most salient ones there is.
Well, first I noticed Jean had her hand up.
Oh, wonderful. Good. Jean.
I was just thinking that it was really lovely to go in the breakout room. I like that because it is nice when it's a real small group. We get the more deeper sense of each other. And so I was grateful. And we had a really nice group, the 3 of us, talking about, different emotions that have come up. And specifically because one in the group is living over there in that area.
Right.
To hear how those people are being affected.
Right.
Yeah. And I brought up about the animals and the nature and the wildlife. We don't always think about that. And so the list of, grief and betrayal and shock, sadness. There were a few others on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And then if there's somebody who wants to speak who actually has a family or friends or a bloodline connection with that area, many times the intensity of the feeling will be stronger due to ancestral energies and other connections. We all experienced a shock. It was kind of a moment of sobriety, at least for us here. I think most of us felt this kind of shock thing, and then it kind of broke a spell of sense of safety in the world, as 9/11 sort of did that too, I remember. So if any of you want to speak, that would be great too.
You want me to speak? Because I do have a bloodline.
Yeah, I thought it was wonderful for you to come, and I was hoping you would be willing to share a little bit about that, Oksana.
You know, it's just really the existential feeling of grief when the war starts, like a globally, not elsewhere. It's not just a notion that somewhere else, but I can go to bed and I can sleep it off. And it's really interesting how I don't know which part of our biology carries it. We say blood because we say bloodline, right? But the feeling is that the war is inside. And like, you know, when we go through a death of someone, and some hours are totally fine, and some hours are just really not fine. They're just the waves. That's how it goes. It's interesting how I pulled out my Ukrainian descent out. I've never introduced myself as Ukrainian. People ask me where your name is from. I said, my name is Ukrainian. I'm from Russia. I'm Russian. I had Russian written in my passport in Russia, in my 22 years of Russia. But both of my parents, my mom and my dad, don't really have a drop of Russian blood in them. They are Jewish and Polish and Moldavians and Ukrainians. And now I feel so interestingly a very strong connection. Perhaps because I was also excavating it without the intent of doing that, but it was part of my work in psychology. So there was work with generations and lineages, looking for resources for healing, understanding that in a large line of people who came there before you, representing your family, there were all kinds of people. There were villains and they were victors, and they were extraordinarily talented people in certain areas, and we're never alone. And we can draw on that. We can draw on whatever we are missing, whatever we're lacking, whatever we're wanting. And then connection becomes ever so strong, really. You know, it's like dredging the well or the little brook that eventually becomes a free-flowing water that we call river. I feel hurt for people in Russia, because people did not start this war. They didn't vote for war. They actually didn't even know about war. I feel privileged to know the 2 languages, even though it's not rare in the world. People know 6 to 8 languages in India, and people know a lot of languages in Europe. But for now, I'm very happy with knowing another language and listening to a lot of very interesting, wonderful people about their opinion what struck me as interesting was that every one of them makes a point, just stresses this point, that when somebody crosses somebody else's borders, it is an act of aggression and it is a war. And I thought, my God, every one of them says that, makes a point of saying that. Is it something that we don't know? And apparently with the kind of trends that we have in our lives, we have all kinds of different opinions. Sometimes we don't even know what kind of opinions we have. Specifically when something's not called a war, but a special, what is it, Jean, they called it special operation. Maybe it's a special operation. Maybe it's not a war. So it was really stressed a lot that it is a war. When somebody does something like that, it is a war, and it's it's a criminal act. And some people even say that somewhat like it's sad that it's going to be hard, very hard for Russia, very, very hard. Specifically people who don't live there. And I see the bereaved faces. No one says, yay, it's so cool that I left 30 years ago. It's so cool that I actually jumped the boat and left 3 years ago or 5 years ago. No one so far said anything like that. It's very interesting. I don't think I have to continue really on, like, I talk to people from Ukraine and people who are in Crimea, and people have different reactions, different point of views. But I want to come to something that Jean said in the beginning, that maybe it's our only leverage point in prayer and doing something with a prayer. And when we lived in ashram, there were days when the prayer happens starting at 4:30 in the morning till deep at night. And people can come and join, and they can come and join for the whole day. They can come and join for 2 hours. They can come and join between lunch and dinner, whenever they want. But it's like there's a flame to this unknown soldier that, let's say, is in Moscow. This kind of flame of faith and work for peace is happening in the holy places all the time. And some people think that a world is sustained by economy, but when I saw what happens there, I understood that it's not sustained by economy. Economy is sustained by prayer. It's careless, but nonetheless, it's sustained by this constant effort, ongoing effort that groups of people all over the world put into it. I'm very happy to be in this group today. That's where it begins. It begins once a week, once a day, and then it just, like a blossoming of a flower, it might bring some of us to the point where we just don't want to stop. Like Suzanne said, then we go to the neighborhood and we just wonder as a blesser, or forgive me if I paraphrase you. That's probably all that I wanted to say. I don't know if you want to ask me something. If I would, I cannot hear you actually.
Because I've not unmuted myself. So if you could stand by, I think your perspective is going to be very useful. So just to highlight somebody else, Char Atkins, who we've known for many, many years, sent this beautiful prayer of one of my heroes, FDR. And at the beginning of D-Day, he had a beautiful prayer. And one of the things he brought out is the importance that one day of prayer is not sufficient in a campaign. But so Suzanne, I wish for you to go ahead and because I think that comes right in here, and ask the question you asked.
Absolutely, yeah. And Thanks, Oksana, for sharing what you have with us. So what came to my mind when you asked us what is coming up for us during this this war? For me, it was, how can a person have such disregard for our fellow humans and their rightful place in this world and on this planet? It feels senseless, cruel, heartless.
So did everybody hear her question? Do you have any additions or elaborations to Suzanne's question? So I'm going to begin. I have kind of put together something I was going to talk about, which I think will help. And I do this not from the spirit of an intellectual understanding of the forces that are involved, because these forces are not experienced simply at the intellect. They're experienced very much on the ground in people's bodies and families and institutions and buildings. But there is a thing called the peace that passes understanding. And that's the spirit with which I'd like to speak at that. The understanding that will bring us a sense, not necessarily of peace, but a sense of comprehension that will allow us the resiliency and capability of staying within our integrity as we move through this and not be caught so much in the winds of emotions that are outside of us. So there's two kids playing in a sandbox and they have a fight. So that's the surface layer. We see a war happening at the surface between people. They have their justifications, they have their words, they have their ideas of why this is happening. There's an explosion there. But there are layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers, energetically and underpinning that. There are forces and emotions and things that have happened that influence people's emotion, their thoughts, their actions, their energies. And most people are hardly in control of those actions. I think it should be admitted. I don't think that's a big stretch for this group to see. Anybody who's lived through the corona pandemic has seen the evidence of that. Now, if you're an advanced yogi, you are free of all of that. People can have whatever reactions they're going to have, and it's not going to influence you. Your equanimity is not going to be affected one way or another. And if you are one of those, please step up and lead this group from this point forward, because we really need your help. Most of us are not quite there in our degree of energetics and yoga. So the rest of us have to deal with the fact that people are influenced by all of this. So then we have to address it. So there are two ways of looking at it. One is energetically and one is spiritually. Energetically, I like the system of Ayurveda to kind of explain certain things. So the Indian physicians from 8,000 years or however back saw that there were three major forces in life. One was called kapha, which is the force of solidity and indolence. One was vata, which is the force of spirit and the wind that moves through things. And one is pitta, which is kind of the fiery, inflamed force. And that everything in life comes from a mixture of these forces. So I'm going to simplify this a bit. War is clearly a pitta phenomenon. There's definitely fire. People are not fighting war with water. We call them firearms for a reason. They're pitta. There's a fire. Fire is used to burn off the stagnation of kapha in the world and to regulate the wind. So when fire exists in the world, that means there's been stagnation that has not been handled, that is excessive. And that has led to the natural reaction of creating heat and fire. And since none of them have been handled, that has exploded. And it will explode in the places, people, and nations and tribes on the earth for whom they are most vulnerable. So if you put a paper on an open fire, the paper doesn't all go up in smoke at once. There are spots on the paper that start to burn first. And then if you can remove the paper from the fire, maybe the whole paper won't burn, but there are definitely vulnerable places on the paper that will burn first. So from an energetic point of view, and remember, I'm not taking away the personal, this is a result of fire trying to handle imbalance that's not been balanced. Are you with me so far? So now here's the cool thing. Fire can be healing and purifying, or fire can be destructive. What makes the difference? The difference has to do with how people handle the fiery elements. Inflammation is good when you're fighting an infection, but if you're not fighting an infection, inflammation in your body is not good. So opening channels and allowing the excess to burn off in a safe way leads to purification and health. And when you're on a detox diet, that's what you're basically doing. You're removing the excess fuel from the fire in your body, by fasting or whatever, eating less sugar, and allowing that fire to burn off the impurities. And then your body can be free. So that's one layer, okay? And from that little understanding, we can step back a second and sort of see this process. Is it true? Is the world full of excess and untended anger and hatred and burning? I'd say yes. So something has to give at some point. So so that's one way of looking at it. So where is the stagnation that comes underneath it? Well, Oksana mentioned a very important one. There's ancestral wounds and stagnations and unresolved things. So typically for a war, the effects can go back 7 to 10 generations. That's why here in the United States, we're still trying to undo the karma of the Civil War and what went before it. We haven't even finished that war, let alone Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan. The load of stuff that we have done without clearing the energy is astonishing. It makes the national debt of money look tiny. Now, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, because I think the biggest thing that we can create for ourselves is this feeling of being unable to do something, helplessness, hopelessness. This is not true at all. Not true at all, because the universe is willing to step in if we ask and if we show our intent, as we are doing today, right here. And all over the world, I'm seeing these efforts going on. So if you look at the people who are in this vulnerable community on both sides, there is horror going back generations. So on one side, you have a leader whose most prominent thing in my experience is that he and his family lived through the siege of Leningrad. The siege of Leningrad was the bloodiest, longest, most horrific siege in any recorded human history. More people died in it than in any other siege we know. Somewhere between 2 and 3 million. I don't even want to discuss what else was there. And the Ukrainians suffered too a starvation at the hands of other people. Now, these are not happening now, but the reverberations of the ancestors are still there. They haven't been cleaned up. They could have been cleaned up and then people can move forward freer. But the people whose job it is to clean them up have not been there. They haven't been doing their job. So now we have to do it the hard way. Clean up on aisle 7, clean up on aisle 8, clean up on aisle 9. This is what comes to us to do. This is, in my opinion, a great deal of why we are here in this generation at this point. Why are there so many healers on planet Earth? Why are there so many movements for clarity on planet Earth? Because there's a lot to heal. And this is the moment. So in addition to these, something is also going on. I'm not going to go through every chapter. I don't want to make an encyclopedia about it. Mostly what I want to do is to open you up to sort of see things from a bigger perspective. Right now, the stars in the sky and we're right at this point of the biggest cluster, you know what, in 800 years. And, you know, at the time this happened, that was like the worst new moon of the worst time of the worst cluster in 800 years. So it was right on schedule. That's because the assemblage point of the Earth itself is shifting. Things are shifting energetically in the core of the Earth. And therefore, people are in flux and moving and bouncing around each other in response, like the rocks in a rock tumbler that have to smooth them up. When the process is done, everybody will be smooth, but it isn't nice to be a rock in a rock tumbler while it's tumbling. Now, I'm not saying this to take any accountability away from the individuals who are involved in this. Please understand that. But with the peace that passes understanding, we start to see patterns and things that are going on. And therefore, that gives us some degree of detachment, some capacity to step back while we're here and witness and do what comes with integrity. And what comes with integrity is understanding, is health, is healing, is light, is love, is sharing, is the sense of family. So one of the masters that I attended to wrote some time ago that some of the difficulties we have is we started to think of the world, as Oksana said, as an economy instead of a family. Economies work differently than families. And we've been indoctrinated to believe every number that comes of the economy is really our state of well-being. And that's confusing to our integrity. So the blood has been spilled, that kapha, and that's the most fundamental thing first. And we're going to address it. We're going to do a ceremony, which you can continue to do at home. I'm just going to teach you how to do it. And you can do this as often as you please. And that will help neutralize the blood issues. The second thing that is going on is the corruption of value through the money system. That's number 2. And that's led us to have an economy of cheating and stealing and greed. And that devalues what really is valuable. That these things that are walking through us that are passed from generation to generation and person to person behave almost more like an infection than they do a psychological state. And I think as long as we continue to see it as just purely an emotional or psychological state, we will continue to allow the transmission of this infection through media and other things that contaminate and infect us. We call that a miasm in homeopathy. So a lot of things that have psychological reference are actually infections, spiritual infections that are going on. That doesn't mean that psychology can't help. Please don't go there. I'm not going there. I'm just saying that this is part of the equation, is to understand that in our Western world, we have paid very little attention to that aspect of what we allow to be disseminated in our society. So then comes the misuse of energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all I'm doing here is just sort of giving context to what we're experiencing in a deeper way. And I want to say there are actually tools for us to handle, use, move, and shift these things. These are not futile things. We are actually being called to step up and address those things. So when we do our work, we are taking that love and light and that intent, and then we're focusing it with direction. And that's what makes it work better. Otherwise, it's a bit like taking a glass of water and pouring it on the sand on a beach. I pray for all of humanity. I pray for peace. That is good for your soul, but it's not going to penetrate very far. But if you funnel it to this thing and this thing and this thing, then that prayer for peace can water a plant. It can keep a tree going. It can nourish and feed a community. So I call for that. That's one of the things I'm kind of big on, is creating a direction for our intent and our love. And when we do that, our soul feels better. Our spirit feels like we've done something. It really is. It doesn't have to immediately prove effective. That's not our job per se. We're not here to fix everything. But if our soul cries out, to do something, then we need to do something. And this is what I'm advocating. So, Suzanne, did I at least partially give you an answer to your question?
Yeah, I mean, the question doesn't have an easy answer. It's very complex. There's so many things to look at and responding, and you did that really well.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So if we understand that, then what's going on becomes comprehensible, but not excusable. So it's not incomprehensible. Then if we go back and clear the blood up, clear the ancestors, do work on that, then we take away the excess and the fuel that's in the fire. And then, at least in theory, peace can reign. And then ask for help. So I will stop here a second and see if there's any reaction, or and then we'll have a beautiful song.
And a break.
And a break. Well, perhaps we need the break first. How's
I
that?
think so.
So let's take a 10-minute break then.
And Jean, should we come back with a glass of salt water?
Please do. Yes, thank you. Can you hear? Hi, can you hear me okay? Okay. Thank you all for being here and coming and staying. And I'm just delighted that I can see some of my old friends and new friends, and that we can work together. So in this last section, I want to do some of the blessing and healing. I think we now have a kind of an idea to maybe open some of the healing work that is actually an opportunity from times like this. So when there's anger and heat and all these other things in the world, it's a chance for us almost homeopathically to look inside ourselves and see where we have our own tyrants and unresolved things. The second thing I want to bring up is our ancestors are not just creating trouble for us, by no means. They bring great resources, as Oksana said, to the table. So many times within the linearity of an ancestry, there's a blockage of one or another generation that just somehow they themselves were a product of war, or they had an economic issue and they had to immigrate, and the break from the native soil to the current soil creates a blockage. I don't know how many of you have immigrants in your family. A lot of people, I'm really shocked to discover, don't know much about their lineage, not more than 1 or 2 generations back. They don't really know where they came from, and that they don't know the stories and the sacrifices and the things of generations in the past that brought them to this place of the opportunity that they currently have. And they can reclaim that bravery and that area and that connection to the original native soil that they have, and heal it and respond to it. There are so many ways, so many avenues that we can make a difference in our stay here. And it's not that difficult, and it's not that time consuming, and it doesn't take a lot of money or resources, just a little time and breathing and attention. It's an equal opportunity situation. So how many of you were able to secure some salt water? It's just like a 1/4 teaspoon of salt in a glass of water. Thank you. And then if you could also get a little cool wet washcloth or something to wipe your hands when we're done, before and after, that would be great. And I'm creating a separate container. If there are any other people who want a healing on behalf of someone else, let me know. And so we have that container, and you will get a healing for yourself through this. So you need not worry, not that you would worry, but we will give you all the healing as well.
Peyton McGavin, please.
What's that?
Peyton McGavin.
Got it. Okay. You got it. Thank you.
There's also Lynn Hall in the chat.
Lynn Paul?
Lynn Hall.
Hall.
Me. Hall.
Mhm. And before I go on, is there anything, anybody have something that is just hard for them about our discussion, or they want to just push back or something like that? Clarify something before we move on?
I have a question.
Mhm.
So is the approach we're taking, what did I put it in the chat, but I'm trying to remember what I said
Is it
exactly.
Vada?
Yeah, that because it's not just going out and doing activism with anger or protesting, which would be fire. Yeah, I'm wondering if it is taking a different level or approach.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. First off, my daughter sent me some charities who are doing specific work on behalf of the refugees and the children. I will put that in the chat box before we go in case you wish to make use of that. It's not a single dosa approach. So it's a tridosic approach. So when in Ayurveda, things get so tangled up that the kapha is out of balance and the pitta and the vata out of balance, which is clearly the case in the human life, then you have to go slowly, delicately, and step by step. And they have a process called panchakarma, which we don't need to go into the details of the herbs or anything, but the fundamental thing first is to calm the body down, open and lubricate the channels of discharge before anything is moved, so that you don't get into the situation with, as you're releasing fire or anger, you're hurting your other systems or yourself. And then the third thing is, in the natural process, things sort of inflame up. They become what's called vitiated. So things that are out of balance become much more noticeable, and therefore your internal immune system, your capacity to recognize what is your integrity and what is not your integrity, your discernment, begins to then process them and then send them out of the body through the restored and lubricated discharge channels that you've created. So I'm explaining, hopefully relatively short and quickly, kind of a complex process. So there are parallels for the work we do. So we do a lot of work in restoring our own energy, our own peace of mind, our own flexibility and resilience. And then when things are out of hand, we have means of gently, slowly reprocessing them and allowing the body's natural healing, deep wisdom of the body to decide what comes out when and where. That deep wisdom, by the way, has a Sanskrit name called Buddhi, B-U-D-D-H-I. So the Buddha, as you know, was the embodiment of deep wisdom. That's why he was called the Buddha. So I like to semi-jokingly say that these are Buddhi calls. So forgive me, I can't go 2.5 hours without some joke somewhere. However, let me address one thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with activism in the world, with a political point of view, with protesting, with doing any of those things. But doing that in a way that's a healing purification rather than aggravating the situation is really important. So what does that mean? It means that you fall under the direction of Buddhi, deep spirit that comes from your integrity of what, when, and where to act and with whom to act. And then you won't get into trouble. And then you dedicate your work for something much bigger than you. And that takes some of the ego and the internal power play and the wounded anger and many of the other things that go along with activism that can make it go awry. So we see that a lot where people who are trying to correct things then become a force unto themselves with a lot of, they fulfill what we call the law of unintended consequences. So then in the process of redressing somebody's rights, somebody else's rights get stepped on and suppressed. And the world has seen a lot of trouble from that. So the thing that's missing is the guidance from above. I'll say above symbolically, from our integrity, from the deep wisdom of the universe, which will guide us in a healing way. There's a force of healing within you. There's a force of healing in the earth. There's a force of healing in the universe. Otherwise, none of us would have survived today. Our first cut or bump would have been our last. So we are full of that wisdom. And thankfully, it's not completely under our conscious control any more than our heartbeat is, because somebody with ADD like me would have been dead a long time ago. I would have forgotten to keep my heart beating, to breathe, et cetera, et cetera. So we rely, we call upon, and we use that force to correct things. Because when things get out of control, the system will naturally bring itself into correction. We simply have to, we are given some degree, this is my opinion, so it's just my opinion, you don't have to accept it. We are given some degree of free will and choice. I don't think it's an absolute 100% or 0%. I think we have some degree. And I think like wise parents, we're given the amount of degree of choices where we can't get ourselves into too much trouble. So some people are given more than others, and you're given more than others at certain time in your life than other time in your life. Thank God for that. But we are given that choice. And the biggest choice we can make is to ask for the help of life to help sort things out. None of this we're facing is going to be solved by a simple theory or the human brain working full time to try and fix all of the issues that are above us. It's way, way, way above our pay grade. What I don't see much is people admitting that finally and saying, you know what? My solution is not necessarily going to solve everything. This is way beyond me. Help. I feel like sometimes we're like in an old-fashioned tag team wrestling match, and the other team has 4 wrestlers in the ring with us, and we're there by ourselves with our ego going, I'll figure this out. The hell they're going to get me. I'm going to figure this out. I'm strong enough. And there's 5 people, angels, sitting on the sideline with their hand. Just tag me, I'll come in. Just tag me, I'll come in. Just tag me, I'll come in. And they're just waiting for us to do one thing, ask for help. It's the one thing I hear so little of in our discourse, help. So that's why I have these 3 kind of prayers that I say. The first one is called help. It's pretty simple. The second one is, please open me up to hear your answer, to hear what it is I'm supposed to do, what my small piece of the puzzle is. And the third one is, give me the will to stop revolting, rebelling, and the pride that keeps me from acting on the instructions I get. So give me the will to follow through. Those are my 3 prayers that I've kind of come to after this pandemic. And I find them very reassuring, because all I have to do is my little piece of the puzzle. That's it. I'm not responsible for this whole thing. It was here before I arrived on. All of these things were here before I arrived on this planet. I'm not responsible for them. I am responsive to them. meaning I use the resources that are given to respond, but I didn't cause this. None of us did. So with that, go ahead and be activistic, protest, do all of those important things that you feel like doing, but just do it with some, this is my plea, please just do it with some awareness. Don't just get in the spur of the moment and start breaking things or hurting other people or insulting them or feeling superior to them and their intellect and their ideas. Just ask for help and say, I don't know why, for some reason, foster children is my issue. I want to be there for them. I don't know why the forest is my issue. I want to be there for the forest. I don't know why I want to feed people who are hungry. I don't know why I want to address systemic racism or whatever other things that are strong within you to address. Then do it. You will feel better doing it, but do it with guidance. That's the best way, in my opinion. And then you are part of a panchakarma movement on the earth, doing it right, quote unquote. Does that help, Molly? Great. Okay, so let's do this. Let's put our feet on the floor and reconnect to Mother. If you remember how to cleanse your aura, go ahead and do it. Just cleanse your space. And then putting your hands over your heart, find your heart again. Find the light in it, the love in it. Thank it so much for its work on your behalf. And just let the light travel through all of the circulation to each of your cells. And using your imagination, I want you to send a ray of light up from your heart to the source of light, which we can call the sun. So just imagine something going straight through the physical body, or if you want to see it stacking up through the chakras, going through there, go ahead and do it that way. And then from the lower part, I want you to see the light coming down from the heart, through the belly, the pelvis, into the center of the earth. Let's say, using our imagination, this beam of light goes up and down, probably to infinity, but let's just call it from the son to the mother, the father to the mother, receiving the father's blessing and guidance, camaraderie, bravery, abundance, and connecting to the mother for loving kindness, ease, peace, comfort, and correction, and having that run up and down through you. And imagine, if you will, a community of healers, divine healers. You could call them angels, you could call them essences, surrounding you in a circle, a dynamo of healing, ready to share their love through you into this center of this circle that we form together. So just sort of gather in a circle and imagine there's just a ray of light running through that circle too. So feel the support and the light of all of the beings, your ancestors, your tribal elders and channel holders, your divine saints and people who've been before you, wonderful exemplars of light. They're there, they're gathered. If you have in your own thing a teacher, a guru, a Buddha or a medicine Buddha, an elder, somebody who represents to you this divinity in the face and form, bring that into the circle too. They're all welcome. We're all gathered here for a purpose, and that is purpose to ignite the fire of love, understanding, health, freedom, liberation, comfort, nourishment, ease, wisdom for all the players. And putting your hands symbolically forward towards the computer to the center of this light. When I ask you to begin, allow the light to flow through the whole essence of you into the center, creating a beautiful light of health. So please begin. And you can shake it out. We're going to go through phases. The next phase, we're going to heal ourselves. So this takes a little imagination, but if you can symbolically step inside that circle while you're still in your physical body, if you wish a healing, you can come into the center of that circle. And then when I say begin, we will allow the healing energy to come through you and heal whatever needs to be healed, whether you are aware of it or not. Okay? Please begin. And shake it out. The next phase is the people who have asked for a healing. We'll put that container here. We're going to do the same thing, putting our hands forward. This time we will ask the healing circle to send that healing light to the people and their angels who are represented here. Please begin. Boots, Neil, Phyllis. Danielle. And shake it out. Thank you very much. If you have your little washcloth, you can kind of wipe your hands in between. Please get out your glass of salt water. This we're going to do in two phases. The first is a general work, and salt water represents blood, saline. spiritually. So we're going to do a neutralization of the blood that's been spilled, generally first. The second is, in the Bible and other great spiritual works, each tribe, each nation, each family has their own elder or their angel. They're also looking for us to speak to them and help them. In the same way, every plant has an intelligence, every tree has an intelligence, every species has their own intelligence. They have a face. They are, to our mind and energy, personal. There is a representative. So in this case, we're going to speak to the representatives of the parties involved, the Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, all of the nations who are handling the refugees that are coming out of there. But if you have other situations on the planet at that time that are more to your connection, such as if you live here, and other things like that, where you want to send the energy, bring those people, invite their angels into the thing, and then we will send this energy and clearing of blood to them directly, and that'll bring it more focused. So was that comprehensible? Did you understand what I was about to say? Good. So in this, we're going to basically take our hands and first put both hands above the glass, and you're going to feel energy forming in the palm of your hand, like a ball, a tiny ball. Then we're going to turn it over. And then when I ask you to begin, you'll allow that to neutralize, basically take all of the trouble of the blood that's in the earth. Not all the blood, just the blood that comes from human on human trouble, because the other blood is just natural. It's not creating trouble. It's just nature. So this human in you, until we're done, then we will clear it up and wipe our hands. And then we'll do it again for the specific things. Okay? So I'm just fishbowling it. So take your hands and put them up first over the glass of water and allow the ball to form. Many of you, I'm sure, can feel it. If you can't feel it, just imagine it. Good. And then turn it above, an inch or two above the water, and begin. And just allow the energies to flow through to all of the earth. You can imagine the earth's crust. You can imagine where humans have been. You can imagine your ancestral home, and allow this healing energy to neutralize the effect of the spilled blood. Great. Now turn your hands up and just allow naturally that ball of energy to dissipate. Just let it kind of unravel, if you will, and go back to where it came from. Then take your washcloth and wipe your hands. And we'll do this one more time. So put your hands back up above the glass of, or the cup or whatever container of the water, and allow the ball of energy to form again. We'll put our hands back over an inch or two. And this time we're going to call in the angels for the tribes and the peoples of those places in the world where warfare is ongoing, and ask them to receive our healing and to transmit it to all the people who are there and the land that will suffer from it, so it can clear it up. Please begin. Great. You turn your hands up, let that ball of energy dissipate. And wipe your hands and cleanse your aura. So these are, thank you for participating. You may think this does nothing. I don't believe that at all. I imagine if you're sensitive within you, you already are feeling some shift. I think it's important for us to show up and show our intent. In our wishing well, which meets, we do this exercise, the 2 exercises, plus we do ancestral work, clearing up the ancestors. We do it regularly, week after week, and whatever else we're asked to do. I feel it's been very helpful for the people involved. I'm just saying that as an example, we can do something that is well within our power and capacity, something we have leverage over. Thank you for participating. Is there any feedback? Or I might ask Edwina to comment. For some reason, I feel like you have something you might say.
Well, just kind of reflecting, absolutely doing this work every week gives us a vessel to work together. And I think when we work together, it's just that much more potent. Not that we can't do it at any point on our own. Just, reflecting over the events over the last few months, there's a part of me that says, I know this isn't personal, and you can see the overarching pattern of what's going on and that inflammation. And then, I kind of look inward and say, well, is it that I'm just disconnecting or don't care? Or is there compassion in there? And also recognizing that's not very easy or compassionate to even say when you have family and people involved directly in war. So I look at that. And I look at how the media is portraying everything, and then my fear level comes up. And then it's like, what do I do with that fear so that it doesn't snowball into something that adds to the fire? And I think this work is just the best container to be able to neutralize that and to be able to feel like I'm doing something, because sometimes I feel like at this point in my life, there's times where I really am guided to take action. And then there's that part of activism where activism to me is where it's like you stomp your feet and say, that's enough. I won't tolerate this anymore, and I want to be heard. And I think that's like a personal prayer to yourself, saying, I'm going to pay attention and let the world know what I want, or what, ask for that help so that the doors can be open to receiving it. As I look at, as I see what's happening in the Ukraine, I've had some pretty vivid dreams connecting at night. I'm quite lucid lately. My sleep has been quite light, and I just see some power imbalances going on. But I also see the symbolism of Ukraine that I'm sure everybody's familiar with the blue sky and the sunflowers. And I see that as the vision at the end. So I really work hard at holding that picture, because I think this is, it's a necessary event to transition us to that place. And that symbolism to me, really, I'm holding in my heart, that's community and connection on a global basis. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. That was really good. That was really good. So there are two things I want to do, and then I'm going to ask you in the middle. The first is, I've asked, Suzanne showed us this beautiful work of art, which was the mother from the Ukraine. I don't know, you can describe it, Suzanne, for us, if you can put that up on the screen.
Yeah, just give me a second.
And then while she's doing that, I want to invite anybody, if you have a specific prayer or a statement that you want to make, please feel free to just speak up now.
I would love to share my favorite prayer with you all.
Thank you.
So this is from the Japji Sahib, from the Sikh scriptures. It's the 33rd Pori. No power to be silent or speak, no power to give, no power to die, no power to live, no power to win, no power to lose, no power in effort, no power to choose. No power lies in worldly might, no power from treasures in earthly sight. No power to control of any kind, they only provoke the restless mind. No power to meditate or know the unknown. Nanak, not even this life is your own. No power to leave this world and go home. One power, one actor, one doer, one knower. O Nanak, no one is higher or lower.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
That is great. Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. Do you want to tell us what we're looking at here? Here we go.
Yes, I found this artwork on, someone had shared it on Facebook, and it's the mother overlooking the Ukraine, holding the Ukraine and all of that region with grace, with love. And I think it's quite moving.
Suzanne, what do you see in that?
I feel like there is something greater than what we're experiencing individually. There's something greater that is holding us. And seeing that there is a way through this, there is a healing for us, and to have faith, to have hope. That's what I see.
Cool. Let's take a moment to take it in.
Can
Yeah.
we share Shanti mantra while we gaze?
That
Sure.
sounds great.
Mhm. Yeah, please do.
Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. Well-being for all. Well-being for all. Well-being for all. Well-being for all. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. Peace for all. Peace for all. Peace for all. Peace for all. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Wholeness for all. Wholeness for all. Wholeness for all. Wholeness for all. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Happiness for all. Happiness for all. Happiness for all. Happiness for all. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om
Wow. Thank you. Anyone else wish to share? In
I
that
would like
case.
would it
Yes,
be okay if
please.
I shared a little bit with words? As we were doing our work today and you had us direct our energy and intent to the divinities that reside over these places that are in conflict, it reminded me so much of when I do craniosacral therapy, the idea that the inner physician, the divinity of oneself, knows the order of healing. And that's something that we don't know. We can look at this place and we know that it needs to be healed, but we don't know the order. And doing this way really respects and honors the divine order of things. Just like you would take a car into a shop, and if you have a broken axle and a broken tire, you can fix the tire, but you're not going to roll out of there. And so I just wanted to thank you for offering that way of healing approach for us today, Jean.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. I didn't say it better. Thank you. That's exactly right. There's a wisdom to life. And the more we can respect it, the better the healing and the more complete the healing will be. Sometimes we have to step in. It's an emergency. It's life or death. And we just got to do what we got to do. But at some point, we have to step back and figure out how to allow life to do the best repair job and fix our inadequacies as human healers as well. Now, Jean, you had your hand up, so I want to give you some space to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. It was lovely, and I have studied the Ayurvedic, and in ashrams too, like Oksana was talking about, and I so appreciated that. I've never heard of that kind of way of looking at this, and always studying more for the body, for me, on a personal level. And so it was just really beautiful to think of this in that way and bring in panchakarma and the different constitutions of the body. The other thing was, I was really struck when we were in our small group that Oksana had talked about, that I didn't hear her mention in the big group, was that how the people in Russia, they don't, everybody she knows, they don't want this war, and how now like they're forced to send their children to war. Their sons are going to war. And it just really struck me so much as a mother. I have 3 sons. So I think of now extending the prayer and the love even more so. And so it was just really interesting to hear. And then she also mentioned that it was the first time that the people in Russia were actually starting to feel, before the war, to feel a little breathing room, and that they were starting to get a choice for their career, and even the older people. And they were just starting to feel a little bit of that, and then they're hit with this. So that really struck me. And it's always, when you hear it from someone who's living there, it's always a little different than if you hear it on social media or you read about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Those are really important points. Yeah. Thank you. Suzanne, did you have something?
I did not have my hand up.
Oh, I saw your screen go green. So it was an ecological thing.
It is an ecological thing.
Thank you. I appreciate, Jean, your words. They're very kind and very heartfelt. I have, in my healing practices, seen so often, and we see it so much, soldiers who are on the battlefield. And they may be prepared to be killing machines, but this is a far cry from the historic training of true warriors, where there was a warrior class who was designed to keep the peace. And these were people who had a blessing before they went out. Whatever they did was under the control of wise elders, and they were cleansed before, during, and after. So they had made a choice. Life gives some people that profession, but not everybody who is in that profession came to do that, in the same way that not everybody in the political profession came to be in government. So I have seen what's called MDD, moral deficiency disorder. This is raised by one of the veterans. When people are forced to do things that go against their fundamental integrity, it's very hurtful for them, and it's not called out at all. And there's almost no war where people are not required to do things that go against their integrity. And all of us have to make compromises to survive here. That's just a fact. But as you know, doing ceremonies such as we do, prayer, sadhana, for those who you know what that is, there are methods that are given to us to cleanse us day in and day out from the compromises we have to make in order to feed our children and ourselves and our bodies in this system. When there's nobody doing that in the appointed professions, this is a huge disservice to people. So I offer you, this is what has been given to me and people like me over decades to do. It's my calling. So if you have an interest in this, just write me and we can tell you how to participate. This is something I'm very interested in, making sure that everybody knows at least a little bit of how to do this in their life. You don't have to do it my way or the way that's come through me, but learning about this, life will teach you your way, your best way. And then there'll be, no matter what is happening, you know you will fulfill what your true profession is, not just what you do to earn a living. So is there some other reflection or comment before we go?
Jean,
Yeah.
Flory needs to take off. We were wondering if we could end with one song.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, I was going to do that, but we did such a great thing there. So go for it.
Okay.
We are, by the way, thank you so much for the 2/3 of the Shamamamahs who are here with us today and volunteering what I call bhajans or kirtans. They're very American, they're very spiritual, calling out the divine. This is another way we can really reach out and purify our spirit by this type of music and singing. So I salute you.
Thank you, Jean. This is a song I wrote called Stand for the Light, and I think it's a good time to hear it. It's late at night, but I ain't sleeping. Got a heavy heart tonight from the news this evening. I ask for forgiveness and I pray for change. Takes a mighty fall to wake us from our selfish ways. It's late at night, but the world ain't sleeping. I've got a heavy heart tonight as I sit here grieving. But the goal is freedom, and it takes courage to feel. And all this pain that's buried has got a surface to heal. It's late at night, but the dawn is coming. I'm gonna take a stand now. I'm gonna stop this running. I'm gonna lean into faith. I'm gonna trust in above. I'm gonna plant my feet here and surrender to love. I stand for the light. I am for the light. May the light shine on everyone. I stand for the light. I am for the light. May the light shine on everyone. I stand for the light. I am for the light. May the light shine on everyone. May the light shine on everyone. May the light shine on everyone.
No. May there be peace. May there be peace. May there be peace. May there be peace. And may all beings in all of the worlds be happy, especially you, especially your loved ones, especially the people who you came with, especially people you've never met, and especially people who you think are in opposition to you. May there be peace everywhere. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
I hope to hear and see from you soon.
Thank you so much for this beautiful offering, Jean.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Beautiful music.